Course in Miracles teaches that forgiveness is our only function here. Forgiveness is the path home. Forgiveness is the way to remember what we are, remember God, remember heaven and love. And remember, everything outside of that is our own nightmare. But within that illusion, we have two different thought systems that we can choose to follow. We can choose to have the ego be our guide through the world, or we can choose the Holy Spirit's thought system. The ego teaches that sin, guilt, and fear are reality. That is the truth in the world. The Holy Spirit teaches that nothing happened, that you dreamed a dream, and the content of which was not true. Forgiveness is described in the Course as a process of looking, waiting, and quietly doing nothing. So what does that mean to us? We're accustomed in the world to first condemn and then offer forgiveness to that which we have condemned. Without our forgiveness, they remain condemned. So it's essential to see sin or some version of sin in order to even reach forgiveness in the world's terms. In truth, everything is a proper subject of forgiveness, because what we're forgiving is the insane belief that we could wander from our home in God and dream of another world and be in that world and have no way home. So we could think of it like a ladder, and there is a supplement to the Course, the Song of Prayer, that describes the process of forgiveness and different stages and levels of forgiveness, but I'm just going to focus on two. So at first, when we think about forgiveness, we think about a person or an event or a circumstance that upsets us. So we think we see something in the world and we have a reaction to that thing. And we blame that thing that's outside of us for our reaction. I would be at peace except for that person. I could be at peace except for that event. The process of forgiveness involves taking the hand of your inner guide, whether it's Holy Spirit or Jesus, and watching yourself be an ego. So at first, you don't just look, wait, quietly do nothing, and then somehow zap into your right mind. The wrong mind is the ego, the right mind is the Holy Spirit. And being in your right mind is looking at the wrong mind with Jesus. One part of this is not trying to fix it. So you may be very active in the world. You may be very upset. You may be devastated. You may be terrified or furious. In order to go up the ladder of forgiveness, the first thing we do is take our guide's hand, Jesus's hand, and look at what's happening. Look at how the ego thought system plays out in the world. And we look without judgment. If you can look at it all, look at yourself, look at the world without judging it as good or bad, then you're looking with Jesus. You're merely watching the ego thought system, withholding all judgment, not trying to make it pretty, not trying to call yourself bad names for choosing the ego thought system or anyone else that you perceive to be choosing the ego thought system. So that first part is something antagonizes you and you react. And then you know in that moment, oh, I dropped Jesus's hand. I didn't look with him. I judged the situation. And then you pick up his hand and you look, wait, and quietly do nothing. As you progress, in the beginning, it may just be when you're angry or terribly upset. That's the reminder. Oh, something went wrong. I'm not at peace. I'm going to look on it without judgment. As you progress, you become more aware of your reaction and less aware of the shadow world. And you know you dropped his hand by your experience. He teaches and shows that experience is not connected to the shadow world. It's not connected to the dream as it plays out. No one is to blame for your reaction. Your reaction is the product of choosing the ego thought system. So we want to be led back into our minds and interrupt our preoccupation with the shadow world, with what everybody seems to be doing, with what seems to be happening in this world, and focus on our choice within to react to that as though it were real and true and the cause of all upset. The goal is to experience a reflection of the holy thought system through forgiveness. That reflection is not about behavior. It's not about anything outside of ourselves. The reflection is always and only an experience. The reflection of love, the reflection of heaven, is an experience and nothing else. And it can't really be any other way, because if our investment is in taking Jesus's hand and looking without judgment on the ego thought system with the goal of impacting a shadow world, we'll always see ourselves at the mercy of that world, of forces beyond our control. So that's just a little trap that's possible, maybe in the beginning when you first start the process of looking and waiting and quietly doing nothing. There is a tendency to base success or failure on whether or not the shadow world is showing something that you think is pleasant and nice and good, as opposed to war and conflict and devastation. But that is not where the war and conflict and devastation are. That is a deception. It is an outward picture of an inward condition. So that picture, that idea of separation reflected in the world, is not the problem. The problem is our belief in it. The problem is the power we give to it over our minds. So forgiveness reminds us that we have a mind, because when we take Jesus' hand and look with him, look through his eyes upon everything without judgment, that is also a reminder that we have a mind. We are able to choose. We do not have to remain caught up in this hurricane of shifting shadows that determine how we feel. So you probably hear a lot, if you're familiar with A Course in Miracles, you hear a lot about forgiveness, because it is the basis. It is the only function we have, is forgiveness. To overlook what isn't there and not to blame anything that is not cause. So the world is not cause of what we experience. The world is an effect of a chosen thought system, and that's all it can ever be. Nothing is happening here. And so when we're preoccupied with the dream figures, with the dream events and circumstances, we're preoccupied with nothing. It's though our minds are blank, and it keeps us trapped in the dream, in the nightmare. So the Course says it is a dream, the content of which is a nightmare. If you think that there's something pleasant here, something lovely here, something to be desired, then there's really no motivation for learning A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is really a particular path for people who see no value in duality. There's no value in separation. There's nothing here that is precious and in need of care, because all of it is temporary. So if this doesn't resonate with you, it's just not your path. All paths lead to God. All paths lead to awakening. So it's not essential to be a Course in Miracles student. But if it does resonate with you, then chances are you feel the way that I feel, where you see the beauty in it, you see the song in it, you see the answer and the whole way out. And even when you are caught up in the throes of the ego thought system, where you truly feel those chains on your feet and your back is up against a wall and you can't think your way out of it, A Course in Miracles can still be that melody playing in the background, that there is nothing that will not be undone through forgiveness. It is inevitable. You will awaken. And you merely dreamed a dream, and it will be forgotten. It will not be remembered because it doesn't have any substance. It doesn't have any reality independent from what we give it. And yes, it does seem that we live in a body in a world, and it does seem to impact us. And we become broken psychologically, physically, emotionally, and we need to be healed. And that's how everything looks here. It looks like everything is made to be broken. And we have to address those things. So it's important to keep in mind the Course also teaches that the script is written. So when the idea of separation came in, a full script was created in that moment. When people say, well, if I look, wait, and quietly do nothing, then I'm ignoring what I'm perceiving, and that is a denial, which is true. We do not deny the bodily experience. We can't deny the bodily experience. That would be ridiculous. So while we acknowledge we're having a bodily experience and we are called upon to act, another part of us, which this is where the split mind comes in, part of us wants the ego thought system, part of us wants the Holy Spirit thought system. A part of us can become aware of what is playing out. I am choosing this. I am choosing to live out this life as a body. Becoming aware that your mind is split is so important, because if you never become aware that you have a split mind, that there is another way of looking at everything, then the Course doesn't work for you, because recognizing the split mind is the only way to look upon things with the Holy Spirit. So the part of me that is aware I have another choice, part of me that is being awakened by the text of the Course, the workbook of the Course, that part of me is the observer. There's a part of my mind that is only observing. And that is the part we need to get in touch with. As you go along in your practice of A Course, it becomes more and more apparent to you that nothing is happening here, that you can only look, wait, quietly do nothing, that is the only game in town, because the script is written, you identified with a character in that script, and it's going to play out the way it plays out. We think we have a million decisions to make. We think our decisions are important. We think they impact ourselves and other people. But as you practice A Course, practice identifying with the observer, with the awareness that is in your mind, you'll see it was never true. And it wasn't because we were deceived by the ego thought system. It's because we chose the ego thought system. We'll see the deliberate nature of every choice the Son of God has ever made. While it involves a veil of forgetfulness to perpetuate what we wanted to see and believe in, that veil of forgetfulness does not precede the choice. It comes after a knowing choice, a deliberate choice, a choice with knowledge. There's no decision a Son of God makes without full understanding of its consequences. It's very difficult to see that from our perspective in the world, where we do feel we see what we believe is victimization, whether it's of ourselves or other people. We want to fix things here. And to let go of that idea that anything can be fixed here allows us to identify more and more often with that awareness that exists within us, that is watching. There is nothing to judge here. The script is written. We are merely replaying in our mind what is long gone. As soon as the idea of separation came into the mind, the correction, the answer, the Holy Spirit thought system arose and represented the other choice. It's always been with us. And ultimately, the end of the journey, the witnesses will come to prove we never slept. I interpret that line to mean it will become very apparent that everything was a choice. Nothing was thrust upon the Son of God. So that's all I'll say on forgiveness for now. There are there are two ideas from the Course that I think are really important as you move along. One section of the Course is called I Need Do Nothing. And that ties into the idea of forgiveness, looking, waiting, and quietly doing nothing. So in the next podcast, I'm going to cover the section on I Need Do Nothing and look at that in relation to forgiveness. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.